There is an interesting way in which everything works out in life according to some principles, which I don't know exactly how to define, but hear me out. There is a way in which everything makes sense together. So I believe in some fundamental principles that I get to not define by myself alone, but rather reinforce through my life experience in the past years. One of them is that believing is seeing. Rather than seeing is believing, I think that believing is seeing. What's the difference? So it's about you being convinced on something, right? It's that saying that only if I see it, I believe it. And this is a model of perceiving reality from the physical to the non-physical, right? I see something with my eyes, then I believe it to exist. I think the opposite is much more powerful, also in terms of actually building the kind of life that you want and that you feel okay with, right? Like you feel fulfilled with. So believing is seeing is much more powerful because, and this is also scientifically proven, we get to experience the life we focus on. This is also one of the sayings that stuck with me from Tony Robbins. You don't get the life you want, or you don't get the life that everyone has. You get the very specific life that you focus on. And what does it mean? It means that if you focus on the negative, you will get negative. If you focus on the positive, you will get the positive. And this is simply because the mind inevitably attaches to those elements that confirm a certain way of perceiving reality. The kind of narratives that we got to build throughout the years. If we constantly think about the world as being a hostile universe, right? Like Einstein said that the most important choice we have to make in our lives is to believe whether we live in a friendly or a hostile universe. So those two elements, we have to decide if we believe, right? So beliefs are decisions. If we believe that this is a hostile universe and everything, is negative and some, some all-powerful God wants to punish us, then this is what we will experience subjectively. And the mind simply works in a way that confirms the kind of reality that you are familiar and comfortable with, because this familiarity is equivalent to safety. If we experience life in the same predictable way, means that we live in a way that is familiar to us, even if it's negative, even if we don't enjoy our day-to-day, doesn't really matter, because at least we know that, right? We don't know what we don't know, right? So the unknown unknowns are very scary for us as human beings, but they also hide all the other virtually infinite alternative ways of living that are much better than what you are experiencing now. So believing is seeing, for me, is more like a mantra these days, especially in the age of AI, where you can amplify any kind of subjective interpretation of anything. So you can virtually create, a world in which you get to confirm your own assumptions about how things are, because you are asking leading questions to the AI, and the AI will create a compelling narrative to confirm whatever your previous beliefs are. And that's a very scary thing to do, because you will assign on the back of the AI the truth. And just because AI will tell you that this is correct, because you had it in mind like that, and it will confirm to you, it will be very difficult to escape that world, right? So believing is seeing. And to make this more concrete, I would say that the quality of our lives is actually dictated by the quality of our genuine questions that we ask ourselves. And when I say genuine questions, I'm talking about the intention behind the question and the attitude with which we pursue the response. So let me deconstruct that. So the quality of the question pertains or is made of the intention that we have behind that question. So let's imagine that you are not satisfied with your life, right? Let's start from the premise that happiness is wanting what you have. This is a definition that I heard at some point, and I love it. So happiness is wanting what you have, and success or accomplishment, like worldly accomplishment, is having what you want. So I have on the one side, success from the world point of view is like, I want this, I don't have it, and I'm not yet successful, and implicitly I will stay unhappy until I will get it. Whether happiness is wanting what you already have. And this is definitely a good place to start from because it invites gratitude and you are actually happy with your current circumstances, no matter how much progress you see still possible in your life. But you start from a good grounding and you are grateful for what you have and you can continue to build. So the quality of the questions, right? What do I mean by that? Throughout our lives, we are in pursuit of things simply because we want to achieve something, right? To achieve something that gives us, a state of mind which we equate with happiness or fulfillment. I want to be successful. I want to make this amount of money. I want to get promoted. I want to get in this relationship. I need this house. I need this car because I imagine that thing, once I have it, will allow me to really live, will allow me to actually be happy, will allow me to be a better person or whatever. And this is ultimately a fallacy. This is an illusion. This is not true. And in pursuit of these material objects, typically we do it on the back of wrongly enunciated questions. Like, for example, when you might want to get a new car, for example, there is nothing wrong with wanting a luxurious car, be it even a Ferrari or whatever, doesn't matter. But if you start the pursuit of getting a Ferrari on the back of a question which sounds like, why he has a Ferrari and I can't have? In a judgmental, critical way, why is he having a Ferrari, right? Like, why him? Why not me? This kind of judgmental, comparing attitude that you have might give you ultimately the negative energy to pursue whatever it takes to get that Ferrari. But having that Ferrari, even after 1, 2, 3 years of pursuing this dream of yours, will not make you a better person, will not create overall a better quality of life just because now you have a Ferrari. Because you got the Ferrari on the back of a judgment, on the back of envy, on the back of, at least intimately in your mind, critiquing that person, comparing yourself to that person, considering that person lesser than you, and because you felt bad about not having a Ferrari when they had a Ferrari, you use that negative energy, like that push energy, to motivate you and give you the energy, and the fuel to actually do whatever it takes to get that Ferrari. because now that you have a Ferrari, you don't feel lesser than that person. So the very fact that you felt lesser than someone on the basis of an object that they possess and you don't, you already lost. Even if you get the Ferrari, you already lost, because that person will always have something on you. That person can always control your mind in one way or another, because as you can imagine, if they are not completely lazy, by the time you get the Ferrari, they might have a new mansion. So what are you going to do now? Will you dedicate, or rather sacrifice yours and other people's happiness for the next 10 years until you get the money to buy a better mansion than that person, so that you can prove ultimately to yourself that you are worthy of appreciation from the world? Because now you have a mansion, you impose respect, you impose people's appreciation, you claim it, you force it. Do you see how the game will not work in your favor if you engage in pursuits towards success on the back of questions which ultimately tell something about you and how you perceive yourself? And let's imagine a better question. You see someone in a Ferrari, you don't criticize that person, you don't complain about the fact that you don't have a Ferrari, you appreciate that person. You recognize that they did something that you didn't do yet for different reasons. You might not have been interested in getting a Ferrari in your life, but now you see that Ferrari. Now you see that person who is happy driving it, and you are like, that's a very nice, experience to have. It's sunny outside, it's convertible, they're like having a good time with, their friends and so on. How can I get one as well? Because I think that would definitely improve, the quality of my fun, of my joy, or whatever, right? So instead of saying why he has a Ferrari and I don't, like in this, negative way, you can just ask a better question, right? You can say, how can I also get a Ferrari? And then you start to think about your goal with a good positive energy, without thinking about that person and trying to prove him that you can also get one or something, right? So this intention is the same. I want to get a Ferrari. But the energy and the attitude that fuels the pursuit and the progress towards achieving that outcome is completely different, right? In the first case, it was it was a push energy. It was like, I want this so I can be fulfilled, typically through my own appreciation based on what other people think about me, right? Because otherwise, you don't really need anything to feel happy. The reason you pursue things is because you think you are not complete, you are not worthy of love, you are not worthy of appreciation. Because, clearly, right, if you don't have a Ferrari, then you are not as good as someone who has one. And based on this faulty and broken view of the world and of, the essence of who you are as a human being, you are basically polluting your whole life experience. In the second situation, the person who is actually engaged in pursuing whatever it has to be done to get a Ferrari, it's a positive energy, right? It's like a good intention. I want this, not so I can prove to myself that I'm worthy of love, or that to prove to myself that I can make 1 million or whatever. You do it simply because this is something that you would enjoy also having as an experience, right? You didn't want that, you didn't think. And this is an extreme example, because typically people who have this kind of two mental states, they don't chase the same kind of outcomes, right? People who are in a how can I say, people who are happy with themselves, typically they have non-material goals. If they happen to get also material possessions throughout their progress in life. That's a byproduct of who they became as human beings and the value that they can provide to other people in the marketplace. They are not chasing the money as such. They are not chasing the object as such, because the object is not essential. It's not important. That's why people who have a lot, they don't necessarily stress about having, but they get them. They get that. And I'm talking about people who have like good intentions in the world. They get that by becoming valuable for the marketplace, right? They create businesses that people consume their products, right? They consume their services and their products. They get value from them and they get rewarded. And with that reward, of course, you can buy whatever you want, right? But that attitude, I think it's even more important than the initial intention. The intention is nice. You want to have a Ferrari, but the attitude in the pursuit makes the quality of your life. Because if you have a negative energy, you will not value the journey towards getting that object. And that's, for me, the most important thing to do. It's primary to honor the day-to-day, the ordinary, because life is made of ordinary days. So first, you have to honor and be grateful and happy with what you are, with who you are, with what you have today, irrespective of you having or not your dream car or your dream role or whatever thing you want to pursue. And this is primary simply because ultimately you are not entitled to anything. You already have this life that you live, and that's already a huge gift. And if you don't welcome that, if you don't honor that, if you're not grateful for that, why would life, God, the creator, intelligence, universe, whoever you want to call it, or however you want to call it, why would it give you anything on top? If you are ungrateful, if you are not happy with what you have, which is already a lot, why would you get anything else in a way that makes you happy? Right? You would get it eventually, maybe, but all those years in the pursuit would be years of struggle and of suffering and of pain. And it will prove that it was not worth it. Having any material object is not a good justification or a good compensation for years of a life which is not well lived, in a state of anger, of frustration, of anxiety. It's not worth it. That's why people who are spending years in caves in Tibet are exponentially more happy and blissed than people who have, billions and spending luxurious vacations in Bali and they are miserable. Because it all happens in your mind and how you perceive life and what you make of it and what questions you ask of yourself that facilitate the kind of life that is worth living. Right? If you ask bad questions in a state of comparison and anxiety and frustration and envy, then whatever follows out of that is polluted by the state, by those seeds that you planted originally. Right? If you live your life on the back of questions that lift you up, that energize you, that put you in service of other people, yes, you might take the same actions, you might make similar effort, but the energy behind that, the attitude that you will have is different. It's an attitude of honoring life as it presents itself to you and doing whatever you have to do in order to be the kind of person that you are happy with on a day-to-day basis. So the intention might be the same. You want to get some sort of an outcome, but the attitude that you have along the way on the journey to achieving that thing is completely different. And that makes all the difference. Because the attitude that you have on a day-to-day dictates the quality of your life, irrespective of getting the goal or not. If you get the goal, that's fine. In the first case, if you don't get the Ferrari, you will continue to be miserable. In the second case, if you don't get the Ferrari, it doesn't really matter, because ultimately what matters is that up to the point of, getting the Ferrari for 3 years from now, you lived life in accordance to, in accordance to your true purpose, which is to honor ultimately the gift of life, in my opinion. And every person honors this gift of life by pursuing whatever they are meant to pursue, which gives them this kind of positive attitude. And of course, that's a choice that we all have to make based on how well we got to understand ourselves up to that stage in our lives. And that thing evolves all the time. But it's all about the attitude, ultimately. It's all about the state of mind with which we engage in the world, in pursuit of a goal, in the day-to-day. It's all about the attitude, right? And again, the quality of your life is dictated by the quality of the questions that put you in pursuit of that thing. If you ask bad questions, you would get responses that will do nothing but reinforce the same way of thinking, and your mind will come up with answers which come in that light, in that negative framing, right, in which you ask the question. If you ask the question in a way which is non-judgmental, which is curious, which is open, then the answers that come are also inviting, are also putting you on the path of, getting things, like having material success, but will not pollute you and your life experience, will not, affect the relationships that you have on a day-to-day basis, will allow you to live in a beautiful way, in a beautiful state, and achieve things that you want to achieve also at the same time. I'm curious what you think of this, and if you'd like to dive deeper on this topic, feel free to reach out. It would be my pleasure.